Texas. There was a reason many Americans felt that Texas was so valuable. Much of this region was well suited for growing cotton, the South's most valuable cash crop. Many Southerners hoped that one day Texas would become part of the United States. Americans come to Texas. The story of Texas begins with Moses Austin, a banker and business owner who dreamed of starting a U.S. colony in Spanish Texas. In 1821, Spanish officials granted Austin a huge piece of land. After Moses Austin died that same year, his son Stephen took over his father's dream. Stephen F. Austin arrived in Texas just as Mexico declared its independence from Spain. Now, Texas was a part of Mexico. Mexican officials agreed to let Austin start his colony, under certain conditions. Austin had to choose only moral and hard-working settlers. The settlers had to promise to become Mexican citizens and to join the Catholic Church. Austin agreed to Mexico's terms. By 1827, he had attracted 297 families, soon known as the Old 300 to Texas. Rising tensions. The success of Austin's colony started a rush of settlers to Texas. By 1830, there were about 25,000 Americans in Texas, compared to 4,000 Tejanos, or Texans of Mexican descent. Soon, tensions between the two groups began to rise. You see, the Americans had several complaints. They were used to governing themselves, and they didn't like, taking orders from Mexican officials. They were unhappy that all official documents had to be in Spanish, a language most of them were unwilling to learn. In addition, many were owners of enslaved people who were upset when Mexico outlawed slavery in 1829. The Tejanos had their own complaints. They were unhappy that many American settlers had come to Texas without Mexico's permission. Worse, most of these new immigrants showed little respect for Mexican culture and had no intention of becoming citizens. The Mexican government responded by closing Texas to further U.S. immigration. The government sent troops to Texas to enforce the immigration laws. The image said, Stephen F. Austin made his father's dream a reality when he founded a colony in Texas in 1822. Here we see Austin talking with a group of Anglo-American settlers about the rules that Mexico required them to live by. Will the Texans rebel? Americans in Texas resented these actions. A group led by a lawyer named William Travis began calling for revolution. Another group, led by Stephen F. Austin, asked the Mexican government to reopen Texas to immigration and make it a separate Mexican state. That way, Texans could run their own affairs. In 1833, Austin traveled to Mexico and presented the Texans' demands to the new head of the Mexican government, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. The general was a power-hungry dictator who once boasted, "If I were God, I would wish to be more." Rather than bargain with Austin, Santa Anna tossed him in jail for promoting rebellion. Soon after Austin was released in 1835, Texans rose up in revolt. Determined to crush the rebels, Santa Anna marched north with some 6,000 troops. The Alamo. In late February 1836, a large part of Santa Anna's army reached San Antonio, Texas. About 180 Texan volunteers, including 8 Tejanos, defended the town. The Texans had taken over an old mission known as the Alamo. Among them was Davy Crockett, the famous frontiersman and former congressman from Tennessee. Sharing command with William Travis was James Bowie, a well-known Texas freedom fighter. The Alamo's defenders watched as General Santa Anna raised a black flag that meant, "Expect no mercy." The general demanded that the Texans surrender. Travis answered with a cannon shot. Slowly, Santa Anna's troops began surrounding the Alamo. The Texans were vastly outnumbered, but only one man fled. Meanwhile, Travis sent messengers to other towns in Texas, pleading for reinforcements and vowing not to abandon the Alamo. "Victory or death," he proclaimed, but reinforcements never came. For 12 days, the Mexicans pounded the Alamo with cannonballs. Then, at the first light of dawn on March 6th, Santa Anna gave the order to storm the fort. Desperately, the Texans tried to fight off the attackers with rifle fire. For 90 minutes, the battle raged, and then it was all over. By day's end, every one of the Alamo's defenders was dead. By Santa Anna's orders, those who had survived the battle were executed on the spot. Santa Anna described the fight for the Alamo as but a small affair, but his decision to kill every man at the Alamo filled the Texans with rage. Texas wins its independence. Sam Houston, the commander of the Texas Revolutionary Army, understood Texans' rage. But as Santa Anna pushed on, Houston's only hope was to retreat eastward. By luring Santa Anna deeper into Texas, he hoped to make it harder for the general to supply his army and keep it battle-ready. Houston's strategy wasn't popular, but it worked brilliantly. In April, Santa Anna caught up with Houston near the San Jacinto River. Expecting the Texans to attack at dawn, the general kept his troops awake at night. When no attack came, the weary Mexicans relaxed, and Santa Anna went to his tent to take a nap. Late that afternoon, Houston's troops staged a surprise attack, yelling, "Remember the Alamo!" The Texans overran the Mexican camp. Santa Anna fled, but he was captured the next day. In exchange for his freedom, he ordered all of his remaining troops out of Texas. The Texas War for Independence had been won, but Mexico did not fully accept the loss of its territory. To annex or not. Now independent, the Republic of Texas earned the nickname the Lone Star Republic because of the single star on its flag. But most Texans were Americans who wanted Texas to become part of the United States. Despite their wishes, Texas remained independent for 10 years. People in the United States were divided over whether to annex Texas. Southerners were eager to add another state that allowed slavery. Northerners who opposed slavery wanted to keep Texas out. Others feared that annexation would lead to war with Mexico. The 1844 presidential campaign was influenced by the question of whether to expand U.S. territory. One of the candidates, Henry Clay, warned, "Annexation and war with Mexico are identical." His opponent, James K. Polk, however, was a strong believer in manifest destiny. He was eager to acquire Texas. After Polk was elected, Congress voted to annex Texas. In 1845, Texas was admitted as the 28th state. Source: TCI History Alive.